Well, another week and another episode of SEC Primetime. I'm one of your hosts, Max Starks. I'm joined, of course, by Clint Stoerner. So this is SEC Primetime with Starks and Stern. And I have to start out, Clint, and go ahead and do this. There we go. We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that Arkansas owns Texas like that. I didn't realize that that was a thing, that you kind of give them all that land, but all the championships and victories lie in that state right next to it, just east of it. Yeah, let's start there, man. I mean, Texas A&M. I mean, everybody's darling, everybody's dark horse in the West. Oh, they're going to be the one to go up against the mighty Bama and woo pig sue we, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. We'll work on that thing and get you right, Max. That sounds about right.
That's okay. The Eastern twang in me.
That's right. Hey, we'll ride with it, baby. Yeah, man. Look, I think this is that was a fascinating game for several reasons. You know, like you said, Alabama, some people had them pick 12-0, college football playoffs, upseat Alabama, you know, all that kind of jive. And a lot of folks really ignored the fact that they had to replace Kellen Mond, a 4-year starter, with an unproven quarterback that had zero experience, and they had to replace 4 offensive linemen. And so there was a lot. I think they were probably a little overrated from Jump Street. People fall in love and they're fascinated with all the NFL caliber players. And ultimately, man, if you can't protect your quarterback and you don't have experience at quarterback, that's a bad combination. So I think A&M was probably overblown from the jump. But when you look at the Arkansas game, it was an interesting matchup because you got a bunch of 3 stars, a few 4 stars, a new coach, you know, in his second year after winning 3 games last season, really trying to put things together, man. And you got a bunch of, like, you know, you got a coach, one of the highest paid coaches in the game, and Jimbo Fisher. You got, again, a roster that's riddled with NFL caliber players. And they had one weakness, though, Max. They had one weakness.
What was
and
that?
that weakness happened to match up with Arkansas's identity. Arkansas is extremely one-dimensional. They have to be able to run the football to produce offensively. And A&M's one weakness on defense was run defense, right? Colorado went for 171 against them. Kent State went for 226 against them. And so there was definitely something there that you, just from a matchup standpoint, you go, man, I don't know if Arkansas is talented, but man, that their identity and their strength really matches up with A&M's identity and their strength. And in the first drive, Max, Traylon Smith goes for 16. Then he bangs them for 15, gets called back on a penalty. Then he bangs them for 12. Right? They go 8 plays, 59 yards, 1 completed pass, kick a field goal. I knew right then and there, all right, Arkansas is good enough to run the ball against A&M, and Arkansas was going to have a chance to win that football game. And if you watch how they slowly bled A&M, ultimately that's what it came down to. That one strength, which is a really strong one from Arkansas, boy, it matched up with that weakness from A&M, and they were able to win a big ball game.
Well, I mean, you think about it. It was Traylon Smith, Traylon Burks, right? I mean, both of them going air and ground, right? It was like UPS out there, you know. And KJ Jefferson was just the sorting manager at that point, you know. But I did look at, but it's about that mentality, I think, as well, right? You said, I mean, when you talk about 3 and 4s versus the 5 stars. They just have a lunch pail mentality. Sam Pittman comes in. He definitely has the lunch pail mentality.
That's right.
He's like, listen, you know, I think I heard a quote. He said, listen, if we're going to run it for 7 yards a pop, why ain't never going to pass? It's like, why? Like, right?
That's right. That's right.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm like, until you stop us and force us to have to do something differently, why do I change this course? And I think that's kind of what it is Arkansas is putting everybody on notice.
That's right.
And if you are going to come and play the Arkansas Razorbacks, you had better prepare to have those forearm. Remember the old school forearm guards?
Forearm guards.
Yeah. You better have that. You better have an extra big mouthpiece in because we are going to give you the shoulder shiver into the mouth. That's what they do. And it kind of, at one point when I was watching Texas, it looked like they were turning down, actually giving resistance on those double teams. And I was like, what, a D tackle actually turning down and actually giving room and not trying to barstool through it, we call it.
That's right.
When they stick the leg and split the double team. And so I just think when we look at Arkansas, you have to respect them. I mean, first of all, let's just acknowledge what the West is doing in the SEC. Can we just do that for a second?
Yeah.
When I am looking at the SEC West, Bama 1, Arkansas 8, Ole Miss 12, Auburn is Texas A&M is now at 15. Don't want to forget them, and then Auburn sitting at 22. Dude, you got 5 out of 7 eligible teams in that division that are in the top 25. So that's not just some smoke that, hey, the SEC has five teams. They have a fifth of the teams available in the top 25 in Division I football, sitting in one division of football. And people wonder why, no, the SEC, it's got to be overinflated. Oh, it's got to be tough. No, it ain't. That's just what we do.
That's right.
That's just what we do. And then I don't even want to talk about it because now after that, you just throw 2 other teams up in there. In the East, put Florida and Georgia in there. And now we've got 7 out of 25. Kentucky kind of messed us up a little bit. They should have won by a little bit more. They could have stayed up there in the 25. But not throwing stones because they'll be the 3rd best team in the East after it's all said and done. But I mean, when you think of that and see the challenges, and we're just getting into division play and conference play in this. So, I mean, we're going to circle back when we get the lines and the odds to talk about the game upcoming for the Razorbacks and the Dogs. But I mean, man, once again, I just got to say congratulations to you, man. I know you were the happiest dude in all of Dallas with that because I was rooting for you guys, man. I was like, listen, when you think of the Southwest Classic and Texas A&M's owned that series, the last, 8 out of 9 in a row?
No, they've won ever since they've been in the SEC, they've won that. They beat Arkansas. Arkansas beat them in 2011. But that was before A&M. That was before A&M joined the SEC. So since A&M's been in the SEC, they had won every single one of them. So yeah, Max, you damn right. This was a big win, and you damn right. I'm gonna act a fool, man. I mean, hell, we just broke a big time streak, man. That was big. Hey, Max, real quick though, man. The interesting thing about this game is not Arkansas. Like Arkansas is trending in the right direction. The interesting part about that football game is Jimbo Fisher. Right, is we can sit around and talk about how Zach Calzada, the backup quarterback, didn't play well, and you had to replace 4 offensive linemen, and you got NFL players on defense, and you're getting, I mean, people are running through you like mess through a goose on the ground. I mean, it is absolutely unacceptable. And we're talking about one of the highest paid coaches in the game in his 4th year, who was, again, has been ran through defensively by 3 of their 4 opponents now. And offensively, he is an offensive-minded coach, a quarterback guru. And everybody I talk to talks about how, boy, at A&M, they're developing talent. Man, they got NFL players everywhere. But you know what? They've been through 2 quarterbacks this year, and ain't neither one of them developed. He was gifted Kellen Mond, who started for 3 years and won a lot of football games. And in 3 seasons, Max, one of the highest paid coaches who is a quarterback whisperer, who is an offensive-minded coach, did not recruit and develop a quarterback to pair with a top 10 roster. I mean, the questions after that ball game is, hey, Jimbo, hey, partner, I mean, you're one of the highest paid out there. Like, this is your deal. What the hell's going on here, man? I mean, you got NFL caliber guys that you can't get to play NFL caliber college ball, and you got quarterbacks that ain't developed. Wait, and we're giving you a raise. I mean, to me, this is that ain't my Arkansas blood talking right there, brother. That's straight up. That's real talk. Like, hey, if I'm an Aggie right now, I'm going, man, what the hell are we doing? What's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, think about this, man. That's like going to an Italian restaurant and getting somebody bring you out the Stouffer's tray. You know what I'm
saying? Yeah. Come on, man.
I mean, you're right. You have to show something. And you had 3 years to bring in said talent to groom them under Kellen Mond. And you have not shown us that. In fact, you haven't shown us an offense that resembles a fourth-year team under said offensive mind. Because when we look all around the rest of this league, right, you look at Dan Mullen, you look at Kirby Smart, you look at all these other coaches around this league. Hell, look at Lane Kiffin last year. And we're saying, Jimbo, you're this big-time guy. We brought you in. We brought you into one of the richest, sports endowments, and we're paying you respectively. We ain't got nothing to show for it. And so I think that is a great point coming out of that game is, where do we go from here? Because, I mean, you think between Buffalo, they scored 20 points in the last 2 weeks total?
Yeah.
So it's like, come on. Where is this sauce at? Where is this secret ingredient? So I agree with you. That's going to be something interesting to watch. And I think, a guy by the name of Ed Orgeron is happy that the attention is now shifted over to Jimbo.
Ain't that the damn truth?
Yeah.
Ain't that the damn truth?
So before we get into my Gators and the Tennessee Volunteers, let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with Bet Rivers yet, now's the time because they're offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. But what sets them apart is the way they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their new Rush Pay Instant Approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. With football season kicking off, get in on the action by going to betrivers.com today or by downloading the BetRivers iOS app. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Let's talk about my Gators. My Gators against those Vols. Listen, I know we whip their asses every year. I get it. But it still means something to Gators and Volunteers every year. And let's face it, the first half of that game, Josh Heupel had those boys in the game. Hendon Hooker kept them in the game. But the problem is football is 2 halves. And the first half is not guaranteed to be the second half. And I think, what we saw with Emory Jones, we really saw a maturation of Emory Jones. He's maturing every single week. You see his confidence growing. You see his IQ growing. He still needs, he still has a couple of moments where he kind of frazzes out and just stands there like the Statue of Liberty in the pocket. But his awareness from the first couple games this season to now, he's starting to get it. Like the timer's starting to go off in his head. And of course, Malik Davis, just go ahead, put a stamp on that kid, All-American. I mean, what Malik Davis is doing for that rush attack and how he's playing and keeping Florida, the tempo going and that offensive line in check. I mean, it's pretty phenomenal. Josh Heupel coming, I give them credit. Didn't quit, kept trying to figure out a way to do it. We saw Joe Milton go in and thought Joe had a shot, and then Joe started throwing, and then we knew why Hendon Hooker was starting. But I mean, just kind of your thoughts about that. I mean, it was tough. It was a tight game, and then it kind of got out of hand towards the end.
Yeah, Max, look, I got one thought, man. This is the real deal here. Dan Mullen absolutely has to be watching his team play and going, man, when I get Anthony Richardson right, when I get AR-15 right, this ship right here is going to sail, baby. We are going to take off. I mean, I honestly, look, I hate to be that way about Emory Jones. This is the kind of deal. It's tough on me when I see a kid that is extremely likable and a really, really good player. But there's just a dude behind you. And there's a dude behind you that's better than 99% of people in the country physically. And when your team is running the football the way that Florida's running it, it is unbelievably convincing. Like, there are a lot of really, really good things going on. And I can't help but watch them and go, Dan Mullen's doing what's right by Emory Jones. He's doing what's right. But there ain't no way in hell that Dan Mullen ain't sitting there going, man, when I get 15 right and I get him up to speed, this offense right here is going to be unstoppable, Jack. That's all. Every time I watch him, I'm thinking, Dan Mullen's got to be over there just licking his chops. He's winning games 38-14 and get AR-15 on the sideline. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but when it happens, Florida is going to be hell to deal with 15 at quarterback, brother.
Well, I think about it. They put up 500 yards of offense and, 222 passing, about 280-ish, on the ground. And you're just sitting there, you're looking, you're like, man, I mean, it's one of those things where, yes, Emory is leading that in the rushing category, right? He went for $144. And, I think Malik Davis, he just gives me a nice pace. Him and Dameon Pierce there in the backfield are just a nice 1-2 punch to go along with Emory. So you got a three-headed monster potentially in the backfield. But it's just the way that Dan Mullen just continually adapts. I mean, say what you want about him, how you feel about him as a person, personally or whatever, but you cannot knock this man's genius. So when we're talking about what we saw with Jimbo and what Jimbo's getting paid and what Jimbo's serving week in and week out, serving those hungry man meals out there in College Station. and you have Dan Mullen over here creating ratatouille and everything else, out of some spoiled veggies.
Max, that's wild, bro. Think about that. Glad you think about that. My man had Felipe Franks and said no thanks. He goes to Arkansas and plays really well for Arkansas. And Kyle Trask steps in and goes to the damn Heisman ceremony. And now he's got Emory Jones, who's damn near beating Alabama. And he's got AR. And I can look you dead in the eye and say it ain't even close. When AR-15's ready and he's right between the ears, he's the dude. You got four guys in 2 years at Dan Mullen. Now, I know he didn't recruit the other ones, or hell, he didn't. I don't know if he recruited any of them except for 15. But he's got four dudes lined up going, I'll take some snaps. Yeah, I'll give you the advantage. and the highest paid coach in America over there, I just that's wild, man.
Yeah, it's frustrating, right? Because especially from our position, right? Like we have no stake in this, right? Nobody's sending us a check to help their boost the ratings for them. But I think the biggest thing is that any person with two eyes can see. You're sitting here telling me Jimbo Fisher came in, you paid him all this money. He was a hot commodity coming out of Florida State. Yeah, you won something with Jameis. But what have you done? What have you done in 4 years? You've come close. You haven't had the real signature victories in this division, and you're supposed to be a quarterback whisperer or quarterback groomer, offensive genius, but yet we see what Dan Mullen did. And let's face it, the three of those four that he did not recruit, one of them did not start a single game in high school, and Kyle Trask. Emory Jones was a career trick guy, right? And had the injury things, and he actually taught these kids and made them better players than they already were. And they became more than just the gimmick guy or the cast off in those situations. And two of the four are already playing on Sundays. So,
come on,
Dan Mullen's doing a great job. I mean, when he gets the raise, he's going to be well-deserved. But if I'm in Texas A&M, if I'm an Aggie fan, I'm saying, listen, I might need a little bit of that back. You might need to go ahead and put them back. I post-dated that check that I sent to you. I'm going to go ahead and call the bank. We're going to have to cancel that. I'll send you a new one, a little bit lower number. But let's move on. Let's go to the last topic of this show, and I think it's our favorite one. And we're gonna talk lines here. We're gonna get to what I think are that dark horse category that is ever so shrinking as teams prove themselves. I mean, we look at Kentucky. Kentucky kind of did this. They were kind of the Walking Dead. They're getting ready for Halloween down there in South Carolina, right? But where are you with Kentucky coming forward? Do you still feel as strong about them? Have they kind of waned a little bit in your eye? Where are you at with good old Wildcat country?
Yeah, I don't feel as strong about my man Mark Stoops in Kentucky as I did. If you remember correctly, I thought that last week versus South Carolina was a true game for them to separate. I mean, it was going to be a separator for them to prove that you can go in and wreck shop versus the lower half of the East and prepare yourself for what we got coming down the pipe this week with Florida. Like, put yourself in a position where you clearly are no longer in the same ballpark with South Carolina, who had a damn graduate assistant start the first game of the year this year. I mean, separate yourself from the Vandy, separate yourself from Missouri, separate yourself from that tier of ball club in the East and inch closer to Florida. And then when you play them, we can all buy into maybe you got a shot, and it's not a fluke if you beat them. And like you said, they sleptwalked, turned the ball over 3 times, played uninspired football. And it just they didn't gain any momentum leading into the Florida week, which I thought they needed to do. I'm not as convinced because of lack of competition in the East when it comes to the dark horse category. Kentucky's still my dark horse, but I don't feel as confident about that this week as I did last.
Yeah, and I mean, and yes, yeah. My thing is, yes, you have Chris Rodriguez, right? I mean, the kid is running all over the place. He's Speedy Gonzalez and everything else. But Will Levis, like, just kind of, just uninspired, right? Just little short dump off passes, throws that interception. And you're like, okay, the efficiency just isn't there. Against, like you said, South Carolina, who is in full blown, they haven't even cleared the land yet, rebuild, right? To even build the house.
Right.
They just bought the lot. That's it. And it's got trees, this got rocks all in the soil. It's bad. And you went to the wire with them, and you see what Florida's done the last 2 weeks. That's my thing. I'm like, I don't see it. Kentucky, I always want to give them that jump, right? You always want to give them that little boost, right? Try and get them over the fence. But every time it seems like, something happens, the fence gives in, or, they slip on a foothold. And I just think that once again, we're in the same situation when we look at Kentucky. They have a lot of great athletes in a lot of places. It just doesn't come together offensively for them. So I think it's going to be a struggle against Florida this week, even though they are at home in Lexington. I think it's
I do too. I think this though. I do believe that Mark Stoops will find a way to make it difficult to just run the football for 4 quarters. I'm not saying that Florida's not going to roll up the yards on some folks, because they will get theirs. But what we've seen from Florida is just the ability to just run through folks, right? And I don't know that Mark Stoops has the horses to do it, but I like to think that Mark Stoops, being a defensive-minded coach, we've watched him in the past put unbelievable defensive performances on the field in big moments. I would like to think that Mark Stoops can find an answer for a one-dimensional football team and force Emory Jones to beat him with his arm, which he's throwing it better now than he was earlier in the season. But your only chance against Florida, your only chance, I don't give a damn who you are, against Florida, is to force it into an air game and make Emory Jones play more than 1 quarter of where he's got to throw the football. Force him to make reads, force him to get through progressions. And he will throw you the football. He's proven that. This past week was the first week he didn't have an interception. It doesn't matter the caliber of the opponent. Emory Jones will throw you the football. He will throw interceptions. And so it's one of those where I give Kentucky a small shot because I like Mark Stoops, to be honest with you. But because I do think that's the weakness of Florida right now, is if you force that thing into Emory Jones' hands and he's got to throw it to win, then I think you got a shot. If they can run it through you, it's game over. Forget about it.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems. Just like Arkansas, right?
Yep.
It's easier said than done. Yeah, easier said than done, because you still got to put the helmet and the shoulder pads on and actually go thump somebody.
That's right.
Another dark horse. Let's turn our attention to the West. Auburn. The Bo Nix Sweet Tea show is over with right now, or is it? TJ Finley comes in and beats them out to give them a shot to go ahead and take over. Was that Georgia Southern, right?
Yeah.
I mean, where are you at? Georgia State. Georgia State. I should know. That was actually my first college bowl game I ever called. Was Georgia State, San Jose State in the Cure Bowl. But I mean, what do you assess of TJ Finley? A, and then B, is Bo Nix done? I mean, what Brian Harsin pulled on the big boy britches, dropped the CO Jones on him, and actually benched Bo Nix, which I didn't think would happen, to put TJ Finley in there. So where we have them, and especially going into this week with LSU,
Yeah, hey, Big Max. I thought Bo Nick's ceiling was too low to take that team to the next level. I thought it was too low. His ceiling was too low from an athlete standpoint in Gus Malzahn's offense, and there's no reason why now in Mike Bobo's offense that I sit there and go, yeah, this is the dude, right? I love the grit, man. The problem is he's one of them dudes that every coach loves, man, because he's a baller. He's tough as hell. He can do all the simple things savagely well, right? But when it comes down to making plays at Penn State in that whiteout on national TV, there was 2 or 3 plays that you got to find a way to make to give your team a chance to win that ball game. One of them was in the first drive. He had a go right down the sideline wide open. And yeah, he was staring down the barrel of a linebacker, but he throws that ball 5 yards inside, nowhere near the receiver, never had a chance. I mean, those are the kind of plays that you have. If Auburn's going to if they're going to compete in the West, you got to have a quarterback that can make those plays. That can physically is gifted enough to make those plays. I just don't think Bo Nix is physically gifted enough to make those kind of plays. And guess who is? TJ Finley. I don't know that he can play it here. I don't know that he's ready to do some of the things that Bo Nix could do between the ears. And I'm saying I don't know. I'm not saying he can. I'm saying I don't know. But I know one thing. That brother right there can rip that joker now. I mean, he can sling it, Big Max. And so when it comes to being physically just throwing the football, there is no more shortcomings at the quarterback position. I believe that TJ Finley is going to be a guy. He's going to be the starter moving forward. I think it's a no-brainer. And I think Auburn is dangerous when he is quarterback.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I mean, here's the thing. We talk about head over heart or heart over head. I mean, it's no question. The heart muscle will always win over that head. You can psych yourself
That's
out.
Right.
Hey, listen, how many guys have talked themselves out of a good time because they're sitting there thinking about this, as opposed to one dude that just says, you know what? Let it go, boys. Let's get it. Miss out on a lot of life when you think twice about it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. All right, before we wrap up with our lines and picks segment, I want to get into a conversation and talk about the Field of 12 Media, a brand new podcast and digital media network covering college football with the people that know it best. Brought to you by Shoot Your Shot Productions, the folks behind the Field of 68. The Field of 12 gives you insight into the game we all love by the people that have lived it. Trevor Knight and Bryce Petty over there in the Big 12, and Joshua Perry and Christian Hackenberg are covering the Big 10. Yogi Roth and Ted Robinson own the Pac-12. We have Harry Douglas, Cody Sensabaugh on the ACC side of things. And of course, we'll be here every week to be your go-to source on the SEC. Check the links below to find the rest of our shows. The Field of 12, where college football happens. I want to go down the list. So let's do this for our very last segment. I know we're going to have our pick segment, but I want to take you through the other games that we're not doing picks on and just get me and you's opinion, straight up win-loss. We're not going to give lines on that. Just a straight up win-loss, and let's see where we end up at the end of the day. Mizzou and Tennessee. Tennessee's going to Mizzou.
I like Tennessee in that game, man. Mizzou's given up. I think Mizzou's given up over 200 yards rushing 3 times this year already, something like that. I mean, they're just again like messed through a goose, man. So, I like Tennessee in that football game right there.
All right, yeah, I'm with you as well. I think Josh Heupel. You talk about a game to rebound and kind of build for the future. I think this is that game you look at, especially an Eastern rival, and one that looked good against Kentucky, but has not looked good since. I'm with you there. Where are we at on? Well, sad to even ask this. South Carolina hosting Troy.
Oh wow! I'll take South Carolina. I'll take Beamer. I'll take Beamer.
Okay. I might have to pick Troy on that one.
Hey, Troy's got an old Taylor Powell, one of my old quarterbacks, man, was at Missouri. Started a couple of games at Missouri last year. He's starting at Troy now, so that might not be a bad pick.
Yeah. All right. I'm just going to let you answer this one. Florida, Kentucky. We already know where my heart is. Go Gators all the way. What do you say?
Yeah, man. Well, look, what Dan Mullen's shown us, we talked about it. It doesn't matter who's quarterback, and if they're able to run the football the way they're running it, and it's obviously not just plain old vanilla running the football well because you're a better football team. They're physically gifted and they're schematically have advantages with Dan Mullen. So I'm going Florida all day, every day, and twice on Sunday.
There it is. There it is. All right. This was an interesting one. I'm torn on this one, so I'm interested to see where you go with it. Mississippi State, Texas A&M.
I'm going Texas A&M big in this one. I'm going
Okay.
Texas A&M big in this one. Look, I think this is one of those. Jimbo Fisher will have his guys ready. And the one thing that I am pretty sure that Mike Leach will not do is run the football enough to take advantage of the weakness that A&M does have. And so I think Mike Leach plays right into the hands of A&M, and I think A&M wins that game convincingly.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what?
That's in College Station too, isn't it, Big Max?
Yeah, it is in College Station. Yeah, it's a home game. So
Kyle Fields gonna be rocking it. Yeah, no, it's A&M all day, baby.
Okay. I'll roll with you. Even though I saw them put some fight the last couple weeks, I don't think Mississippi State has enough for them.
Look here. This is another topic we should hit one day. But look here, Mike Leach ain't the kind of dude that can go through a couple of rough seasons in Mississippi now. You know what I mean? In Mississippi State. I mean, he's a strange bird now. You can't be a strange bird and lose. Nope. That's a bad combination right there now.
Yeah, hey, pirate ships aren't in Mississippi State unless they're coming up the Mississippi River.
That's right.
Hey, they were seeking refuge. They weren't there to stake a claim. I chuckle at this one because I'm going to have to go with the away team on this one. Vanderbilt's hosting UConn.
Yeah, Vanderbilt, man. I mean, it's hard to watch, man. I mean, look, Georgia was up 35-0 on them this week, and it was the week leading up to the Arkansas game. And hell, I heard Booger McFarland say, well, Georgia had a scrimmage today. They should be ready for Arkansas next week. I mean, that's where we're at. We're referring to Vanderbilt as a scrimmage, man. Yeah, that's I'm with you. Hell, UConn's one of the worst teams in the country right now. I'm not sure I wouldn't take UConn just because I like their mascot.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, who doesn't love a good husky dog? I mean, huskies are beautiful dogs. You know, God, I'll go Vandy. Just because I went.
You talked me into UConn. You talked me into UConn, and you went Vandy. You dirty dog.
No, hey, listen. No, I actually think I'm praying that Vandy does good because I want Clark Lee to get a little bit of leash room so he can go recruit. That's the only reason. So this is the only prayer that I will give Vandy all season. I promise you. All right, the game we kind of talked about earlier, Auburn, LSU. We talked about Auburn, TJ Finley. You know, will he start? LSU coming off of that big win against Mississippi State. This one, you know what? I'm going to go with the Bayou Bengals. I'm going to take LSU at home.
Ooh, you're going to take LSU at home, huh? I'm going to tell you, I like Max Johnson, man. I like what he's doing, man. They have a hard time buying into quarterbacks down at LSU, but my brother Max Johnson is straight slinging the peel, son. I mean, he had 4 touchdowns last week. Look, if he wouldn't have balled out last week, they wouldn't have won that ball game. Because again, the LSU that we've watched, like you said earlier, like we've said for 2-3 weeks now, the fact that they can't run the football right now, their leading rusher has 144 yards on the season. You hear me? I mean, that's LSU we're talking about. That's the Bayou Bengals you were talking about. So if Max Johnson wasn't slinging that ball all over the park to Keyshawn Butte, who is a beast, by the way, if that connection right there wasn't so special, we'd have some serious problems. But man, I'm going Auburn on that one, man.
Ooh,
I'm going Auburn on that one, man.
Wow, Death Valley at night too.
This is a hard one for me, man. Because look, I think there's something to this. Another topic, right? I think there's something to this. There is something to LSU, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. You know, with this whole one little training camp or little off season with them, hired them late. You know, this is one of them deals where it could be that these players are just now getting comfortable with their offensive and defensive coordinators, and we're going to start seeing some of that old school LSU that we've seen in the past. So I'm not real comfortable with my pick, but I'm not going to talk myself out of it. I'm going to go with Auburn.
All right. Hey, I love it. And that's what creates a good vibe when we come on here and do the podcast weekly. We can then eviscerate each other for making bad decisions. But let's turn to the main event here. We're going to go to our official college sports lines through Bet River Sportsbook. You can go to Bet River and check these lines out yourself and make the decision. Once again, this is only Clint and I's perspective. You make the decision at the end of the day. You're the one that hits the place bet button, not us. We're just here to give you advice and be shepherds in this process. But as we know, all the talk from last week to this week, because let's face it, Bama just absolutely destroyed Southern Miss and Ole Miss was idle. So all they had to do, in fact, heck, Ole Miss bumped up a spot and they didn't even do anything. So when you look at that, I think the biggest thing is that you've got to say, what is this game going to be? Now, the line is Bama's get laying 14.5. Total in this game, 79.5 points. Ooh. Matt Corral, Bryce Young. Bryce went 20-21 with 5 tutties last week. Almost had the perfect game until he threw that interception to Williams. He kind of bobbled it in the end zone. That would have been he would have been 21 of 21 with 6 tutties. That would have been ridiculous. But you have that. You have the offense. We know Ole Miss has provided some resistance. Notice I'm going to say resistance and not call it defense. They have provided resistance. Alabama's defense is stout. It's stout. It's strong, and the boys know how to play. What say you, Clint Stoerner? You taking Bama with the points, or you going for the upset and picking Ole Miss, or you just taking the points from Ole Miss and saying they're still going to lose?
Yeah, no, look, here's the deal, man. I think this is one of those games where I told you there's going to be 3 or 4 games this year where Bill O'Brien, as the offensive coordinator at Bama, is going to be challenged, and he's going to have to be the difference. He struggled 2 weeks ago versus Florida, and they had very minimal, if any, explosive plays, and that's a big concern for me. And I damn sure can't give them 14.5 points. I'm going Ole Miss plus 14.5. And I will go with the over in that ball game.
Woo! Woo!
That's right.
40s are going to be on the table. You know what? I'm going to back your play. I like Ole Miss with those points because one thing we know about Lane Kiffin, they're never shy on scoring the ball and figuring out how to get guys in the end zone. Matt Corral is slinging it all over the yard. I think they can pace with them offensively. It's going to be a matter of, like you said, who actually scores last in this game will win this game. I think that's why I pick Ole Miss because I don't think this is going to be 2 touchdown better. Now, as far as the over, the under, I'm going to take the under. I think it's still going to be high. I don't know if both teams can hit in the 40s or if one's because it's going to be so close. I don't think there's a 42, type of 38 type of game, which would take us at 80, right? That would have us at 80. But I do think it's going to be somewhere in that area. Somebody's going to get in that high 30, maybe break the 40 barrier, but I don't think both of them do it.
Max, that the thing is I know Ole Miss is going to throw the leather off that piece for 4 quarters. Right. Anyway, if it's a tight ball game, they're gonna sling it all over the park. And if they're losing, and we're at 65 with about 5 minutes left, there's a good chance that Ole Miss is gonna get to gonna help them get to 80. So that you talk about cats throwing the ball all over the park, man. Good gosh, is Matt Corral? Is Matt Corral is he in the Heisman talk, bro?
He has to be. He has to be. I think he is still Bryce Young. It's Sam Howell's now out of that talk.
Malik Willis has to be in it. Spencer Rattler will be an outsider looking in.
Yeah.
Man, there's some good ones out there. How many times am I going to say that brother right there is slinging the rock? Matt Corral, TJ Finley can sling it. Max Johnson is slinging it. These dudes, obviously, there's just the Bryce Young kid at Alabama is slinging it. It's wild, man. I think Matt Corral may be leading the way in the Heisman hunt, man.
Yeah, the West. That's why we, I talked about it at the beginning of the show. The West is leading it. 5 teams in the top 25, and when you look at each of those schools, what do they have in common? rubber band arms back there in the back. Hey,
that's right.
It never gets tired. It just keeps going and going.
That's
and
right.
It all over the place. So no, I like that. I like it. I hope I'm wrong on the under with that. But
me too, Bub.
79.5. It's a lot of points, but like you said, we got two guys who are going to actually go after it. Now let's turn to the main event. I wish I had like a little button I could push to give you the whole main event. That was my best. That was my best shot at it. So,
I like it.
Arkansas goes between the hedges to Athens, Georgia. College game day is planting their flag there. David Pollock is going to be the happiest bulldog on Saturday morning for that game. He is going to have all kinds of vitriol. And Lee Corso is going to pull out that bulldog hat. But these Razorbacks ain't your daddy's Razorbacks. These ain't your uncle's Razorbacks. These ain't your homeboys' Razorbacks. This is a bare knuckle, skull dragging type of Razorback team.
Yeah,
going in there. The disrespect right here, and I already know where you're going to go with this, so that's why I'm taking the lead on this. 18.5 points in Georgia's favor.
Come on, man.
18.5. Three scores. And we saw what they did to Texas. They put their fingers in the eyeballs and their thumb in their mouth and used their head as a bowling ball for Texas. You took Texas A&M to the woodshed, and the fact that they still said 18.5 points. Did they not see the first half last year of this game? And the total points is 49. Man. Total points is 49. I think that's a relative error. I'm gonna go with the under on that one, but there's no way I'm going against Arkansas in this one. I don't care. 8 versus 2. 8 versus 2. Yes, they beat Clemson, but we just saw Clemson get their behinds taxed by NC State. So that win doesn't really look as good. And Clemson's all the way back at 19. So when I look at this, Georgia, yes, you're starting to click on all cylinders, and you just horsewhip Vanderbilt. I haven't seen a convincing total effort in that defense. I'm not taking anything away from the defense, but offensively, I have not seen enough offensively to think that this Georgia team is going to go put up 3 scores ahead of Arkansas. That's just my personal opinion. So when I look at this, I'm taking Arkansas. I'm taking the under on that because 18.5 points, just give me the free money right now. In my personal opinion. Now for the actual expert opinion and the Razorback and the cool-headed perspective of Clint Stoerner. What say you, Clint?
I'm going Arkansas to 18.5. I think that's just too much. I think they've shown. Here's the deal. I think I think Georgia is the better football team. I think Georgia is legit. You look at their scoring; they're number 1 in scoring in the country. They're number 7 rush defense in the country, and then they're number 2 pass defense in the country. These guys are legit. I don't think there's any weaknesses on the defensive side of the football. And Arkansas is going to have to work their ass off to be in this thing in the fourth quarter for it to be a game. I think it could happen, but I think Arkansas is going to have to exceed expectations once again to get there, which they're playing the number 2 team in the country. It's not rocket science. It's not breaking news. I'm saying that. I'm taking Arkansas, the points, and I'm going to take the over in this football game because here's the deal. I don't think Clemson. I don't think Georgia's been challenged. I don't think Georgia's been challenged. Clemson, they scored 10 points, and that was a defensive touchdown. UAB, they beat 56-7. South Carolina, they won 40-13, and Vanderbilt 62-0. They ain't been challenged. When their offense was challenged, their offense didn't piss and drop. And so I'm definitely taking Arkansas and the points. I think Arkansas is going to have to work awfully hard to be in this one in the fourth and have a chance to win it.
All right. Well, there it is. There are your official lines from Clint and Max, of course, courtesy of Bet River Sportsbook. You can go find them on the app on iOS, or you can go to betrivers.com. And just as we all hate to say, this is the end of the show. Another great one, another great week. And of course, I'm happy, Clint, as always, that we come to this in a occasion. Let's hope that when we do this podcast next week, that we're both still smiling ear to ear, just like we were this week. So to all of our subscribers, continue to go out there, subscribe to the Field of 12, and of course, SEC Primetime with Starks and Stern. We appreciate you very much. I'm Max. He's Clint. This is SEC Primetime. Take care. Till next time.